The Volt Typhoon malware enabled China to hide, among other things, pre-operational reconnaissance and network exploitation against critical infrastructure like our communications, energy, transportation, and water sectors.
That was FBI Director Chris Wray on Capitol Hill yesterday, warning that Chinese hackers are preparing to wreak havoc on American infrastructure. For more on the growing threat of Chinese cyber attacks, Chris Krebs, SentinelOne Chief Public Policy Officer. He served as the inaugural director of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Chris, it's great to have you here with us. So, you know, this threat that Director Wray was talking about, it was intercepted and detected, obviously, but there's still a high level of alarm about, I guess, just the ongoing potential for disruption here. Is it new? Has it escalated? Should we just assume that there's a sort of a constant attempt at these incursions? How do we think about it?
Well, with China, what I've seen out of the national security community and out of the intelligence community has been a marked shift in their level of concern and their public outreach and engagement for about the last year or so. And it really kind of kicked off last May when there was a discovery or an announcement of some activity in Guam and the Indo-Pacific region where they had detected Chinese activity targeting military assets. And the thought is, as tensions escalate between China and Taiwan, noting that the United States would likely come to Taiwan's support, the Chinese would want to undercut the military capability of the U.S. in support of Taiwan. But there's a second element of the campaign that was detected over the summer and into the fall, where there was additional cyber activity against U.S. critical infrastructure. And that's exactly where Director Wray and Director Easterly from CISA, as well as General Nakasone from Cyber Command, were going yesterday, is that there's been a significant increase in activity targeting U.S. critical infrastructure in a very opportunistic and ad hoc way. And even as recently as this week, you heard the FBI disrupted some of the cyber infrastructure, a botnet that the Chinese had amassed over the last year or so. And so it is very concerning. It is not theoretical. It is very much here and now. Researchers at SentinelOne have detected the same sort of activity. And so it is not just the government saying it, it's the private sector as well.
And what is the, I guess, the intended takeaway of this? I mean, is it require some kind of congressional action? Do we need to reinforce the defenses? Is it really just becoming public about it and putting China on notice that we're aware of this and won't tolerate it? How do we consider all those things?
Yeah, look, I think the committee hearing yesterday in and of itself was significant. If there's any issue on Capitol Hill here in the U.S. that Congress is bipartisan on, it is understanding the threat from China and pushing back. I think the second real takeaway from yesterday's hearing is that Cyber Command, the U.S. military, the U.S. intelligence services continue to really deeply try to understand and penetrate Chinese networks and Chinese operations. But the third, and I think the most important, is that we're not going to attack our way out of this fight, and that we have to have better defenses. And there really is an element of corporate responsibility here at home. And this is exactly where Director Easterly was going, is that companies need to up their game and understand that cyber risk is business risk, and you have to take it seriously.
Is there a general sense that companies are, insufficiently attentive to that right now, or that they just treat it as, only on an emergency basis? Or is there a reporting requirement for these things?
Well, that's a great point. The Securities and Exchange Commission required certain reporting for publicly traded firms back in December. The first was that you have to have some kind of cyber capability on the board, and you have to report that. You also have to talk about in your 10Ks or annual filings what your governance and policies are on cyber. But you also have to report by 8Ks any sort of material disclosures. And we've seen a couple of those over the last couple of weeks. Microsoft disclosed their corporate email compromise, and then HPE made a similar disclosure last week. So there is some activity shifting in the corporate world. We've also seen a shift when it comes to ransomware. Ransomware payments are down. That's what we've seen at SentinelOne in our response efforts. And that's due to better defenses. Companies are still paying, but payments to unlock are down.
I'm glad that the attention to this has increased more recently. I mean, this has been a threat for, I would say, decades, and it's very easy for anybody, let alone the Chinese, to do this. If you blow out a transformer, that's not a piece of equipment that you keep on a shelf. So it's hard to back up. So how can we think about this in terms of if they are successful in doing this? Should we be thinking, we have a strategic petroleum reserve, for instance. How do we think about this as a country to sort of protect ourselves in the case that it does happen? Because if there is no electricity, it does absolutely paralyze our economy.
Well, the Director of National Intelligence, working with the Department of Energy and the Department of Homeland Security, have looked for many, many years at the nation's infrastructure to get a sense of what the vulnerabilities, but also what the consequences of a cyber attack would be. And the latest assessments still level out at a cyber attack at best could have some sort of regional impact. Or locally constrained impact, and you wouldn't see the nation's entire grid go down. However, given the way the interconnects are set up in a regional basis, you could have some short-term regional outages. And I got to tell you, from a societal perspective, even 3-4 days without power to replace a transformer, as you pointed out, would be pretty devastating. And we do believe that that's exactly what Russia has in their doctrine, that China has in their doctrine.
Sure.
They have increasingly shifted to information operations and trying to hit the chaos button here at home as best they can.